Welcome back to DotLife Season 2, Episode 1. So excited to be back.
So good to be back.
Missed you so much.
We missed you too. I missed the whole gang here, and it didn't feel like a month went by, but it did pretty quickly.
Yeah, it didn't. Should we take another break?
Sure.
I'm tired.
No, you can't take a break. It's Season 2. You gotta hit this hard. We got a lot to talk about.
I'm excited to be back. There's so much to cover this season.
Yeah. Are you talking about Season 2 of DotLife, or are you talking about the NFL season? Because it feels like you're talking about NFL season.
I'm so happy you brought that up, Bill.
Mm-hmm. You brought it up. You wore the shirt. I mean.
Well, it is football season starting on Sunday.
Yes.
Bills, Ravens. We drew a tough opening.
Yeah, you get the Ravens, right? It's like
Yeah.
a rematch of, what was it, the AFC Championship?
No, the divisional semifinal game.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. That we
So
won.
what's your prediction? What do you think the Bills are going to do this year?
I don't know. For this game, I don't know because, Lamar, Derrick Henry, we're not going to stop the run. So
Right.
we got to stop the passing game, and our corner situation, our safety situation is a little rough right now. So I don't know.
For those just joining, by the way, we're talking about the Buffalo Bills, not the New England Patriots, because
The Patriots
here, well, wait a minute. I don't know. We'll see. This still could be a rebuilding year, but I'm thinking the Patriots are going to probably win eight games.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think they're going to come in second in the division.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Bills are going to win the division most likely, which means we will get in the playoffs.
Not too shabby though for a team that's like kind of rebuilding, new coach this year. Jim Vrabel. There's a lot of excitement.
Mike Vrabel.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Mike. Is Jim his dad or something?
Maybe, I don't know.
They were lying on the radio when I was driving, and then that's basically all I know.
Yeah,
So
I'm already impressed. It's better than season 1. Good
thanks.
job.
Well, you scolded me for not having any football sensibility.
You spent
so
the
here you go.
entire break cramming. I'm impressed.
Right, just the drive over here actually. But I'm excited about Boston College football. They're undefeated at the moment, 1-0.
Awesome.
Absolutely destroyed the very fearsome Fordham Rams last weekend, 66-11. So
Oh, yikes.
that's my team.
Were you there? No, you weren't there.
I wasn't. We were in Ireland, but
Yeah.
my sons who go to Boston College were there. So
Okay.
that's and because I'm a part owner now of Boston College, I'm obviously very invested in the results.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got a lot to cover this week.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about today?
A few topics. Let's do election news.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple of new things happening in the rental market here in Boston.
Yes.
There's a classic car show going on.
That's a lot of fun. We'll talk about that towards the end, I
let's get
think.
into that. At least one restaurant opened while we were away.
At least one.
Yep. And we'll talk a little bit about your trip because I want to hear about that.
Sure. We went to Ireland, and we'll get to that too.
Yeah.
So you want to start about the election, and I just voted on the way over
Oh,
here, by the
nice.
way. This is Thursday that we're taping this before the election's on September 9th, obviously.
Yep.
And there's been several days now, including last weekend, of early voting. And what we know about that so far is that it's been kind of low. Like the turnout is not
really?
great. There were, on Monday, there had been only 2,700 voters citywide who came to the early voting that weekend.
How does that compare to other years?
It's lower than I'd expected for
like
a
a
mayoral
ton,
year.
or-
No, but it's
Okay.
off. It's
Okay.
definitely not, in a competitive mayoral election, I would expect to see at least, we're tracking towards 20%, and I'd expect to see it higher, like maybe a
Okay.
third of the city electorate.
Wow.
Today, when I voted at Florian Hall, which is one of the places open today on Thursday,
Yeah.
and there was like 3 other people voting when I was there, and they said there had only been about 100.
All day.
All day, and I was around 6 o'clock, so it was 2 hours left, but not a great showing. And there were as of Monday, there were 20,000 roughly people who had voted by mail. So
I did mine in a Dropbox. Have
Okay.
they counted those yet? Do you know?
they had, as of Monday, up about 22,000 of those in.
Okay.
So more to come, obviously. And then, but what we have to hope for at this point is that the September 9th turnout, the actual election day, when polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., that we see a surge of voters.
Guys, go out and vote. Your vote matters. This is an election where even 1-2 votes can make a big difference. Go out and vote.
It definitely can, and certainly might at the at-large city council level, or if you're a voter in District 7, where there's basically an open seat, and there are 11 candidates running. They'll be narrowed down to 2 on Tuesday. And obviously, the mayoral election is the big ticket item, with Michelle Wu running against 3 challengers, Josh Kraft, Domingos DeRosa, and Robert Capucci. It's pretty clear that this is going to come down to Kraft and Wu probably in the reverse order there. Michelle Wu back in July had according to public polling, a 30-point margin of advantage in polls over Joshua Kraft. But a lot could have happened since then. That's the summer doldrums. We're now into the peak season. I tend to think that things narrow up a little bit in polling. But there has been some turmoil in the Kraft campaign even this week. Two of his top advisors who've been with him since even pre-day one of him announcing his campaign back in January left the campaign. We're not sure whether they were asked to leave or if they quit.
Okay.
But 5 days before the prelim to
not a good
lose
sign.
Right, to lose the top managers of your campaign isn't great.
Yeah.
You would think that might happen the day after the preliminary, maybe you weren't satisfied with the performance
Right.
of the team or whatever. But despite that hiccup for him, Josh Kraft announced today on Thursday that he's putting another $3.5 million into his campaign to self-finance the next round.
So their departure was not a giving up sign.
Not by the candidate. It could have been some dissatisfied folks within the camp.
Yeah.
He spent a ton of money already, $2 million plus of his own money, and hasn't had a huge fundraising lift from other donors. Maybe it's because they figure he can pay for it himself,
Right.
but also usually fundraising is a signal of people being careful with this campaign. The poll numbers haven't been great. And Michelle Wu has this huge advantage of basically running against Donald Trump too,
Yeah.
and every time the president opens his mouth and says anything about Boston, it's a vote magnet for Michelle Wu.
Yeah.
So it's a tough spot for him to be in, but nevertheless, he's, I guess, prepared to put even more of his own personal, fortune into this mix. The big question, Aaron, is going to be not whether or not Michelle Wu tops the ticket on Tuesday, but by how much.
Yeah,
and
right.
if the margin is under 10 points, that's a good thing for Kraft. Expectations are so low.
That would be a huge gap closed.
Huge gap close. If he's even maybe 15 points,
Yeah.
it'd be like a surprise. Like, okay, we thought he was going to absolutely get his clock cleaned.
Right.
And he's, it's not quite striking distance, but,
Yeah.
With that kind of money, you never
Could
know.
be. Yeah.
My expectation, it's not going to be that close.
Okay.
It'll be, north of 20 points, I think. And that's really hard to catch up from, especially in this climate federally. And yet here we are. We have an
Right.
election, and we'll see how it plays out. The at-large race is the other one I'm watching very closely. I think it's going to be an interesting night on Tuesday locally.
And how many candidates are we looking at there?
There are 10 candidates on the ballot on
Okay.
Tuesday's election. It'll get narrowed down to 8.
Okay.
You get 4 votes, obviously up to 4. You
Yeah.
don't have to do them all. And Ruth C. Louise Yuen, who's the sitting city council president, topped the ticket in 2023 in the citywide balloting for council. She's the heavy favorite to do that again. I think
Okay.
it's fair to say she's considered to be safe, so to speak.
Yeah.
She's been the top fundraiser among the at-large councilors as well. But the number 2 fundraiser on the at-large council, you want to take a guess at who that was?
Frank Baker.
Frank Baker, who was a district city councilor from Dorchester up until 2 years ago, sort of retired from the council, but is back and running at-large citywide. And I have to say, running a robust, very visible, and well-financed campaign to date. I'm watching for Frank Baker to be kind of the sleeper candidate in this election. I think given the fact that Josh Kraft, even though Kraft may not perform highly,
Yeah.
him being on the ticket, so to speak, helps Baker, who certainly is aligned with Josh Kraft. He's not a fan of Mayor Wu, and would tend to be sort of a dissident on the council if he gets back in.
He's got his fans.
He
There's
does,
a lot
and
of signs.
it's also a function of sort of the field itself and the demographics of the field.
Yeah.
Erin Murphy is another candidate who is likely to finish strong, I think, in this prelim. She finished number 2 citywide balloting in 2023.
Remind me, she went to the county and then is now coming back to.
Well, she sought county election,
Okay.
I think two years ago roughly, and did not succeed.
Okay.
But But Erin Murphy has another citywide presence. She's been elected 3 times now citywide, and she finished second, not far behind Ruth C. Louis-Jouen last time. That's an off-year election, meaning that there wasn't a mayoral contest. So you tend to see bigger turnouts in mayoral years, but that's an open question Tuesday. We'll find out Tuesday night just what percentage of voters actually show up. 1 or 2 other names to throw out. It's been interesting to us. We did a survey of the city council at-large candidates, which I think was helpful for voters who weren't familiar with this field to read a lot more. And it was a survey that they filled out and most of them gave pretty thoughtful answers, actually.
Yeah.
And, there's a couple of candidates who are newcomers who are notable. Alexandra Valdez, who I actually met today when I went to go vote. She was outside Florian Hall with a lot of her supporters, by the way. 33 years old, an interesting candidate from Roslindale, I believe. And she actually works in the Wu administration, or I think she's taken a leave of absence, but she's worked for both Marty Walsh and Michelle Wu. And has an interesting story, and I think cuts an interesting figure for this particular election. There's Henry Santana, who's an incumbent, and he finished 4th last time.
Is he Hyde Park? Is that right?
Henry Santana lived in Dorchester. I think he's in Roxbury now, but he's also been kind of quiet as a first-term councilor, and in terms of he's been not a high performer when it comes to fundraising, and not that money's everything, but it's something.
Yeah,
it's an indicator of your reelection energy, and so it's been kind of low energy from him. I suspect we may see some surprises in terms of people expect all the incumbents to probably just kind of get rubber stamped back in. I don't think we're necessarily going to see that this time.
Okay. So the process will be, you said there's 8 and there's going to be whittled down to how many?
4 in November.
And how many ultimate slots are there open to?
Well, there's technically all 4 incumbents are running for re-election. So Ruth C. Louis-Jouen, Erin Murphy, Julia Mejia, who's another incumbent who's likely to get back in.
Yeah.
And then Henry Santana's in that 4th slot.
Yeah.
They all have, it's all equal measure in terms of when they're seated, but their ranking matters in the prelim. If you finish 4th or 5th in the prelim, 5th obviously is outside. It's outside the running in November. But if you finish 5th and you're a challenger, you're kind of in striking distance there, and you could be you get some momentum.
Okay.
If you're an incumbent and finish 5th, that can also be a motivator, and to get your base to say, wait a minute. You're not going to make the cut.
Yeah.
So this has happened before. A number of years ago now, Ayanna Presley, who obviously has gone into greater things in the Boston City Council, no offense to the councilors, but there was a time when she was expected to finish probably 1st or 2nd, and she finished like 4th and close to being knocked out in the prelim. That gave her a surge that really brought her up. I think she might have finished 1st that year.
Okay.
And so that could happen. That's a dynamic that we'll be watching for, and that could happen also in the mayoral contest, where, if Michelle Wu maybe underperforms in this one, and then her base gets riled up, they think they have this in the bag. Anything could happen on Tuesday.
Right. So then, one more quick thing on District 7 that has 11 candidates.
Yeah.
Anything to look for there that might be a surprise?
That field is really interesting because there's so many people running, and they're all most of them are canvassing pretty hard, knocking doors. I'm hearing the name Maverick Alfonso quite often as a favorite in that seat, and there are two candidates, both named Syed. One is his last name is Ahmed. The other is I'm going to mispronounce his name, but they're both Somali American. Okay. And very competitive there in the Somali community in District 7 between those 2 candidates. There's Sam Hurtado. There's 11 candidates, so I can't remember them all. Yeah. But what I will say is that we're really going to dive a lot deeper into that seat once we get through the prelim, and really once the voters have chosen their 2, we're going to do a lot more in-depth coverage.
That's quite the X. 11-2.
11-2, yeah. It's really that's a real ground game battle in D7, where you're really going to be talking about winning with 11 candidates, you could win with 400 or 500 votes
Yeah.
potentially.
Go vote.
Yeah, exactly. Please, and do go to .news.com. That survey I mentioned is there. There are letters from pretty much all the candidates in D7 explaining their candidacy as well.
And you won't find that on their websites. When I went to go research some of their websites and their positions, a lot of them didn't have very good websites, but your site has a lot more information.
The survey was helpful, and I want to give credit to Steve Poftak, who's the executive director of the Boston Municipal Research Bureau, who suggested this. We've done surveys in the past, but it was really Steve's idea to let's get the at-large field some more exposure, and I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, absolutely. So next week, this is the last episode before the preliminary closes. So next week we'll have some more analysis of who did what and who didn't.
We will, and we have some. I'd love to have another reporter besides me come on to talk about that. We have some good talent at the Reporter who we'll have like 7 or 8 reporters on the street on election night, going to the various sites. So watch our feed on Blue Sky and X and elsewhere, and on our website for sort of real time precinct by precinct breakdown what's going on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's shift over to the rental market. Lots of things happening here. I don't know if you know this, but I made the decision to go to Alston on September 1st.
Why would you
dinner.
do that?
Kind of forgot about
You're
move-in day.
getting yourself in the Christmas season.
Got stuck in traffic for a bit.
Yeah, I did too. On Labor Day or the day after, I was trying to pick up my daughter, and she goes to school over by Fenway. What a nightmare.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't even like the
Mattresses
U-Hauls.
everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. It was just, and in fairness, like there's like 30 or 40,000 new people coming in that day probably, and don't know the roads, don't know anything about us, and they're not used to dealing with people like me driving around like a maniac. But yeah, it's not the best day to be on the roads over that side of the city.
Did anybody get Star Road? I didn't hear of it. I don't think anybody did.
Wasn't paying close attention to that, but if there wasn't, I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
it's like an
fair.
annual thing.
Yeah.
But over on this side of town, Dorchester, we obviously have UMass Boston. We have plenty of college students who live here, but not to the percentage and the density of other parts of the city.
Yeah.
But we wanted to know a little bit more as we were thinking about September 1st, and there's some dynamic things happening in the market.
Right.
And we wondered, what is it actually, how is that manifesting right now with costs and with demand? And so we talked to a number of realtors who are, very much expert in the Dorchester market, Mattapan as well. And we talked to Sheila Dillon, who's the head of the city's housing department, and is very well acquainted with the ups and downs of the market in Boston. And what she told us in particular was that it's pretty steady here locally. I mean, there hasn't been much volatility in the rental market and the costs in Dorchester over the last several years, actually. It's been fairly stable. Some increases here. We've obviously seen some new housing stock in the forms of these larger apartment buildings like Dot Block or the building on Marcy that's now open. But, we were still curious about how might the Trump administration policies on students be kicking in.
International students,
Yeah, especially with international students and maybe the chilling effect on them coming to, Cambridge, Boston, et cetera, how that might ripple into our community. The short answer is we don't really know yet. There have been all of the realtors we talked to in Dorchester, and some of them have citywide footprints, by the way, observed that there seems to be more vacancy than usual over in especially Alston, that part of Boston. But here in Dorchester, we only have about 7% of our housing stock is student.
That's pretty low.
Student occupied.
Is it mostly around UMass?
It's mostly UMass. It's Harbor Point in particular, and then Columbia Savin Hill, and then adjacent communities.
Do you have any sense of what UMass's international population is?
Yeah, it's significant.
Is it? But
UMass did put out a statement this week that said this is their. They claimed it was the biggest proportion of in-state tuition students that they've had ever, which I found surprising because UMass Boston way back 50 years ago when it was starting here was really a commuter school. So you would think,
Right.
so maybe they may have to qualify that.
Ever since 2020.
Maybe, yeah. But they were very. It was the headline of their press release, like that they.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
there's clearly a shift happening.
Yeah.
But yes, UMass over the last couple of decades, for sure, has had a large international population, and it's noticeable in if you walk around Harbor Point and
Yeah.
in the campus. It's clearly the case, but that may be changing, and it's clearly changing in other parts of our university systems locally. So, bottom line for us this week, Dorchester, talking to the realtors, they said they haven't seen a lot of change in the market year to year. They're observing that $3,000, basically $1,000 to $1,500 a bedroom is kind of the market right now. Something in the $3,000 to $4,000 range is like the average cost for a 2 to 3 bedroom in Dorchester, and that pans out with what I've seen from friends, family who are attempting to find places.
Crazy.
One other piece of housing news is it's kind of a headline for next week, but I'll mention it. Is we've talked on the show before about the property that's attempting to be built next to Shawmut Station. It's like 70 or 80 units.
Yes, and the Trinity, right?
Yeah, the Trinity Financial Project,
Yep.
and it's on Center Street actually. But it's been hung up in the court system for the last couple of years. Dueling lawsuits from neighbors trying to block it.
Yep.
We've just learned that project actually is going to go forward. The lawsuit's been essentially withdrawn by plaintiffs who are seeking to stop Trinity from building it. So, for folks who are worried or hopeful for more housing starts in the city, that's a sign that things may be easing there, at least in that one project.
Okay. I did when I moved here in 2014. I moved to Charlestown, and I had to spend, I believe it was $8,800 to move in, because it was first and last security and broker fee.
Broker fee. That's a big thing that's changed just in the last month.
That
Erin.
is such a good change, in my opinion.
So to be clear,
Yeah.
previously, whether or not you initiated,
I think
with
it was
the broker,
me. Yeah.
yeah. If you initiated the broker, you still would have to pay.
Well, that was
but-
the thing, is that like you would find the person moving in would find the listing. You would go set up the listing visitation. Often the broker wouldn't even go. They wouldn't even go with you, and then you would pay them a fee. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is this?
Well, so what's changed now in the state law is that if the landlord has hired the broker to find you, essentially they have to pay
Yeah.
the broker, right? So
Yeah.
that seems fair.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what has changed thanks to, legislators and
Yep.
Governor Healy, AG Campbell really pushing that through as well. So that's good news, but there could come a wrinkle with that,
I'm sure
right?
there
Is
will be.
that
Yeah.
landlords may decide to pass that cost along in terms of raising rent. Now,
Right.
Craig Galvin, who's one of the realtors we talked to this week, he does a lot of listings in Dorchester, said that he's warned his clients, like, that's not a good way to do it. I think there's an interest locally in, obviously everyone involved in the industry is trying to make money and
Right.
make a profit, but tipping the neighborhood too far with rent hikes and costs, that if there's some control at the local level from property owners, especially owner-occupied landlords who, maybe trying to fill a vacancy in the 3-decker that they live in, maybe don't do that. Maybe
Yeah.
try to, be reasonable on the rents, absorb that cost. It's a fair cost to get a tenant who's a good tenant. And, the old school way of doing things in the neighborhood would have been, you rent to friends and family,
Yeah.
or you don't have to use a broker at all.
Well, that's the thing. Do you think a broker is even, with the internet at this point, do you need a broker anymore? Like,
in my experience with friends who've done this recently, they've tried it both ways,
Yeah.
and it really depends. I mean, obviously, you want to go to an expert who really knows the market and can find you exactly what you're looking for. Some people
Yeah.
are too busy to spend
Right.
their days and nights looking, and
Yeah.
I suppose there's a market for that too. But yeah, what I like about the balance here is, especially folks, older folks who live in a home maybe and have a apartment or two they can rent. Try to find somebody who there's a value proposition there. Finding a good neighbor, finding somebody, maybe they're going to shovel the walk, maybe they're going to,
Yeah.
do something
Right.
other than spend another $300 or $400 a month on the place. That's the old school way. It would be nice if we could see that continue.
yeah, I agree. Restaurant openings.
We've had a couple. I think before
Yeah.
we broke, we talked about the Dot Block Diner. They
Yes,
had been
it
open
had
now.
just opened, yeah.
It had just opened. They're having their grand opening this Friday, or
Okay.
Saturday, sorry. So they're having some specials there.
Okay. Is it good?
A lot
Have
of
you
good buzz on. I have been. Yeah, I
Nice.
like it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got a huge menu. Like it's a diner kind of
Yeah.
deal. So there's a huge menu, and that's nice. The newest place is the Nightly, and that's folks in Savin Hill will know this already because they live there. It's above the Daily.
Makes sense.
It's which is the small grocery store at the corner of Savin Hill Avenue and Sydney Street.
Okay.
So that's a very popular spot. Above there is now a restaurant space with a bar on the top floor and actually a patio, an outdoor patio overlooking Savin Hill, essentially, and the beach and the train and everything.
That's great.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cassidy McNeely, who's on our staff, paid them a visit, did a story last week, which people can see online.
Okay.
And loved it. She said it's very cool. Cassie, by the way, has recently moved into the neighborhood, so she can walk to the Nightly, like a lot of folks.
Nice.
And intends to. So this is a property that, back 15 years ago was sort of derelict. It really was like an abandoned. It used to be the Savin Hill Variety. The building itself looked horrible. It was all boarded up. And James Baker, who's Frank Baker's brother, made it a project, tore that building down, built the Daily, and always intended to put some sort of restaurant mix on the top floors, including a function room, and they've done it. So
Cool.
It's not fully open. It's sort of in test kitchen mode,
Okay.
but there are hours of operation, especially on the weekend. Folks can go check it out.
I have a good friend on Sydney Street, so Melissa, we're going to the
There you go.
Nightly. Yeah.
Please report back.
Perfect. I went to Comfort Kitchen last night.
Oh, that place is
man.
great.
So
How was
good.
it?
Amazing.
Was it packed? Like it was
It was
really hard to
packed.
get a table there. I mean, it's not that big of a space.
No, but they have 2 outdoor patios, which I didn't realize, which was helpful.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
perfect for this season. This
Really
is
good.
this is patio season still
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of outdoors, classic car show coming up, Dorchester
Yeah,
Park.
that's a great event.
Yeah.
Like folks who haven't checked that out, it's in Dorchester Park on the Adams Street side. We call it the Bowl. I live right around
really?
the corner, so we grew up calling that area of the park the Bowl.
Okay.
And there's about anywhere from 50 to 100 classic vintage
They fit in that little
antique
area?
cars. Yeah, they
Wow.
do. It's big in there's the kind of the hillside
Yeah.
slope. There's also a horse and carriage ride
Yeah.
offer, like with the Clydesdales, I think.
Yeah.
Big horses.
I accidentally took my dog last year to go walk through the park. I didn't know about that. And all of a sudden, there's like a horse coming toward us, which...
Are they not like horses and dogs not friends? I don't know what the
Not
deal
my
is.
horse.
Oh.
Or not my dog.
You got a horse too. You got like a big yard over
I do,
there.
yeah.
It starts at 11 o'clock, goes till 3. This is on Sunday,
Okay.
7th.
Cool.
So check it out. It's a free event. There are some vendors there to buy food and stuff, and really cool. The Boston School of Music, which is in Lower Mills, they
Mm-hmm.
have kids performing there live, so there'll be some live music there as well.
Have you popped over to Dorchester Park lately? Have you seen their upgrades?
Yeah,
It's
live right
really
next door.
nice.
Yeah, there's new pathways, and they've done some
New
clearing.
accessibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been coming, and there's some other parks. Walsh Park is almost done nearby,
Okay.
which is another city park. Codman Park, we have on the cover of the Reporter this week, just opened.
Nice.
So in terms of public space, open space, it's been a good season for the neighborhood.
I was mildly irritated while it was happening.
Which one, Dot Park?
Yeah, because they had closed the entrances and stuff, and it was
Yeah.
annoying. But
And your dog was annoyed, more importantly,
yeah,
right?
he was
Yeah.
annoyed. But then we got there once, and it was all dirt, and he went wild in the dirt.
Well, think about bringing them back this Sunday if you're not busy,
Not this
watching
Sunday.
watching the Bills lose. I mean, if they're not doing that hot, you might want to take a halftime break, take a walk over there.
Let's talk about your trip to Ireland, Bill.
Okay,
How
all right.
long were you there?
5 days. Linda and I and our daughters went, and Linda and I were participating in a conference over there called the Kennedy Summer School. It deals with Irish American, U.S. and Ireland politics and current events. And the cousins over there aren't too thrilled with us at the moment, I'd have to say.
I can't imagine why.
I don't think we're too
Weird.
thrilled with ourselves in this part of the country, anyways. That's sort of they're sort of co-signing that sentiment by and large. It's not, the Irish are not monolithic.
Yeah.
The Irish Americans here clearly aren't. We're
Right.
very divided on matters. politics at the moment. But there's a lot of angst and there's a lot of concern and anxiety. Check in on your cousins over in Ireland if you happen to be like me, an Irish American, and lucky enough to be. So, they're worried. They're like, what's going on over there, guys? Like,
Yeah.
Rein it in. And at the same time, they have their own issues as a member of the EU, and of course concerns about Ukraine. They're very concerned about Gaza.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activism and a profound concern about how the U.S. is sort of failing to lead in the world, and our countries are so inexorably connected, U.S. and Ireland. So we had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And I wrote about it. I'll have a longer piece in our companion publication called Boston Irish,
Okay.
bostonirish.com, if folks want to read a little bit more about that. But, the bonds of connection are very, very strong, and we just got to keep working on them.
I similarly did some cavorting with folks from across the pond. I went to Toronto.
You went to see Oasis.
I did, yeah.
Oh, how was it?
It was great. I tried to get them to do a tiny dot.
The Gallagher brothers weren't cooperative? That's stunning.
They told me to bugger off. I don't know.
They probably said it a little bit more explicitly than that. Did they seem to get along on stage?
They didn't. They weren't anywhere near each other, so I think that helped. They were great. They were on point. So yeah, it was really good.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I really wish I'd been able to go to see them. And I'm kind of annoyed with them for not coming to Boston. I mean, come on.
I know.
That's nuts.
I know. Yeah, but Toronto is so great. If you haven't been, go
I
to
have
Toronto.
not. I have
So
not been.
good.
I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks.
What's coming up next week? Elections, obviously.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of coverage on the elections, of course. We're doing Cassidy McNeely has an interesting story on horse stables. Speaking of horses that are not in Dorchester but close by, that
The
are
ones
the
in,
park
like,
rangers.
JP?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's
park
cool.
rangers. So she paid them a visit. Sept Daniel's always up to something, and we have some I'm not going to blow the secret now, but we have some exciting new talent coming on board the Reporter next
nice.
week, and people will be able to. We'll talk more about it next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll have full recap on the Bills-Ravens game. Who are the Pats playing?
The Pats are playing the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think they used to be the LA Raiders, but I'm not sure. Good luck to the Bills, I guess. And I think we're going to be playing the Bills twice as usual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
October
are you going
5th?
to the game in December?
No, I think I'm going to be home
Oh.
because they always play around Christmas, which is super annoying because I go there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, have fun this weekend.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
You too. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks,
See you
Bill.
out there.